Hello, this is Mr. Molo. I'm going to go after that first inequalities review with you right now. This way you have all the right answers before the test. All right, so number 1 on the inequalities review was x minus 9 is greater than or equal to a negative 2. So remember, we can still draw our line down the equal sign here or down the inequality sign here. And remember, we're still doing the opposite operation. So since it says x minus 9, that means I need to add 9 to both sides. Negative 9 plus 9 is going to end up canceling. And so I add 9 to the other side. So on the left side here, I'm just left with an x is greater than, and then negative 2 plus 9 is 7. So our final answer there would be x is greater than or equal to 7. Kind of the same thing here. Our operation, though, isn't subtracting, though. We have a negative 7 times x. The opposite of a times problem is a division problem. So I'm going to end up dividing both problems by negative 7. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 ends up canceling. So I'm left with x. And then 21 divided by negative 7 is a negative 3. But if we remember our one weird rule for inequalities, since I divided by a negative, that means my sign is actually flipping. So it flips from a greater than sign to a less than sign. So x is less than negative 3. Same thing here. It says x divided by 5. The opposite of a divided by 5 is a times by 5. So those two are going to cancel. Times by 5 on the other side. So I'm left with x is greater than negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. And this time we don't flip the sign. Even though we got a negative answer, I ended up multiplying by a positive 5, not a negative 5. So my answer, so my sign still stays as a greater than sign. It doesn't need to flip. Only when we multiply or divide by a negative number. All right, now we run into our two-step problems here. So remember, we should do our adding and subtracting first. So I see a plus 6 over here. So I'm going to subtract 6 from each side. So that's going to cancel. Now I'm left with 24 minus 6 is 18. It is greater than 3x. Again, I have a 3 times x. So I'm going to end up dividing both sides by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Again, no negatives there. So we have 6 is greater than x. And then remember, if we want to rewrite it the other way where the x is first, some of you like it better that way, I can do that x. And now I'm kind of going to flip my sign is less than 6. So the reason I say you're kind of flipping your sign, so the little end is still pointing towards the x, the big end is still pointing towards the 6. So it looks like a different problem, but both of these answers are exactly the same. You could say 6 is greater than x, or you could say x is less than 6, and they really both mean the same thing. Here's another one, except now we have a variable on both sides. So first thing I would do for these problems to make sure that we're not dealing with a no solution or many solution is get my variables together. And especially with inequalities, you want to make sure your variable is positive. So you could subtract 5x from both sides, but 3 minus 5 is going to give me a negative number, and I really don't want to deal with negative numbers with inequalities. So I'm going to think for a second beforehand, and I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides so that I end up with a positive x instead of a negative x. Okay, so 3x minus 3x cancels. 5x minus 3x gives me 2x. Now, since my variables are on the left side there, I need to get rid of this 20 on the left side. So it's a positive 20. I'm going to end up subtracting 20. So I end up with 2x is greater than 4 plus a negative 20, or 4 minus 20 is a negative 16. Then 2 times x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Divide both sides by 2, I get x is greater than negative 16 divided by 2 is a negative 8. Again, since I divided by a positive 2, I don't need to worry about flipping my sign. So just an x is greater than negative 8. All right, now we get into some graphing problems here. Okay, I like to at least have one number smaller and one number bigger than the number I'm graphing, so I know which way I'm going here. So I have negative 8, negative 7, negative 6. So since I see this line underneath here, it's greater than or equal to, I know that means my circle needs to get filled in here. So I'm going to have a filled in circle at negative 7 because of that equal to line underneath. and I want numbers that are bigger than -7. So numbers that are bigger than -7 are numbers that are to the right, like -6, -5, -4, -3, all the way up to 1,000,000 and infinity. So plug in any number here. Is 1,000,000 bigger than -7? Then yes, 1,000,000 that's way over here on my number line here is still going to get shaded. So make sure that you're going to the right. Same thing here. I have 12 is greater than or equal to x. So I'm going to do one less than 12, 12, and the one greater than 12. Same thing. I have an equal to sign there. So my circle is going to get filled in. And it says 12 is greater than or equal to x, which means x has to be a number smaller than 12, which is numbers like 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, all those numbers that are to the left of 12 on a number line.